Elias wiped the grease from his hands and leaned back against the workbench, watching his daughter, Lila, carefully pick up a small wrench. The hum of the space station around them was constant. A low, steady vibration of engines, conveyor belts, and distant machinery. To most aliens living on the station, humans were small and weak, often overlooked. But to Elias, Lila's curiosity was her greatest strength. "Careful with that one," he said softly, smiling. "It slips easily, but it's strong if you handle it right." Lila nodded, her brown eyes wide with excitement. She had inherited her father's hands, small but sure, and she loved the way metal and gears seemed to obey her touch. She had been helping Elias since she could walk, and though the work was hard, she never complained. She liked fixing things, building things, even just watching machines move. But today she wasn't here to fix a ship or a droid. Today she was thinking about something else, something bigger. Elias noticed the way she fiddled with the wrench, her mind clearly somewhere far away. He knew that look. He had worn it himself many times, staring at the stars beyond the station's metal walls, dreaming of more than engines and tools. "What's on your mind?" he asked. Lila hesitated. "I was thinking about the Dragon Queen," she said quietly. Elias froze for a moment, not because the Dragon Queen was dangerous, though she was, but because most humans didn't even speak her name. She was the ruler of the dragon-like aliens who controlled most of the outer sectors, a being so powerful and old that legends made her almost like a god. People whispered about her in fear, and many avoided her. "Why are you thinking about her?" Elias asked gently, curious now. "Because no one ever celebrates her," Lila said. Her voice was small but determined. "No one remembers her birthdays. She must be lonely." Elias looked at her, a mixture of pride and worry crossing his face. Humans were small, fragile in this galaxy, and yet here was his daughter, imagining kindness in a place that valued power and fear above all. "You know it's dangerous to think about that," he said. "Most creatures wouldn't even let you near her." "I know," she replied, not looking away. "But I want to. I want her to feel happy even for a little while. Everyone deserves that." Elias felt a lump in his throat. She reminded him of himself at her age, daring to dream, daring to hope. He could only nod. "Just be careful. There's more to her than anyone can see, and not everyone will understand why you care." Lila smiled, tightening her grip on the wrench. "I know. But I want to try." The station's corridors shook slightly as a cargo ship docked nearby. Elias glanced at the monitors, then back at his daughter. He wondered how she would manage in a world that often saw humans as weak and unimportant. Most of the aliens walking past the workbench didn't even glance at them. To them, Elias and Lila were nothing more than small human mechanics, useful only for repairs. But in Lila's mind, and increasingly in Elias's, humans could do more. They could think, feel, and care in ways that even the strongest alien might overlook. "Come on," Elias said, gesturing toward a small table at the corner of the workshop. "Let's take a break. I have a feeling you're planning something big." Lila's eyes lit up. She loved these small moments with her father, the quiet talks that felt bigger than any lesson or machine part. They sat together, eating a simple meal of protein paste and recycled water, and she told him about her idea, a tiny spark of rebellion against fear and isolation. She wanted to do something no human had ever dared, show the Dragon Queen that she mattered, that someone remembered her. Elias listened, heart swelling with pride and fear. He knew the galaxy was harsh and humans like them had to be clever to survive. But Lila had something the aliens didn't always understand: courage, hope, and a heart that wanted to reach out rather than conquer. He could see it in the way she talked, the way she dreamed. By the time they finished eating, Lila had already begun sketching ideas on a scrap piece of metal. A small cake, she whispered, maybe decorated with something shiny, something magical. Elias watched her, amazed. The tiny human hands that could barely lift a wrench were planning to touch the life of one of the galaxy's most powerful beings. "Promise me you'll be careful," he said again, more seriously this time. "I promise," Lila said, her eyes sparkling. "But I want to try, Father. I have to try." Elias sighed, knowing he could not stop her. Humans were small, fragile, and overlooked, yes, but they also had something the galaxy's mighty often did not: a heart that dared, that risked, that reached for others even when danger loomed. He could only watch and hope that courage would be enough. And as the station lights flickered softly above them, Elias realized something profound. Maybe humans were meant for more than survival. Maybe they were meant to change hearts, even the heart of a Dragon Queen. Lila spent the next few days quietly preparing. While other children on the station played or ran errands, she was in the small kitchen corner of her father's workshop, mixing ingredients she barely had. Flour, sugar, a few precious crystals of sweetener. These were hard to find on the station and even harder to make taste like anything special. But Lila was determined. Her tiny hands worked carefully, kneading, folding, and stirring, guided by a sense of purpose bigger than herself. "Careful with that," Elias said one evening, peeking into the kitchen. His voice was calm, but there was a flicker of worry in his eyes. "You don't want to ruin it before it even reaches her." "I won't, Father," she said, smiling. "I just want her to feel happy. Just for a moment." Elias nodded. He didn't fully understand her plan, but he admired her bravery. Humans were fragile, yes, but Lila had courage that rivaled the strongest warriors he had seen on the station. She wasn't thinking about power, profit, or fear. She only thought of kindness. By the third day the cake was ready. It was small and slightly uneven, but Lila had decorated it with shiny sugar crystals that glowed softly under the station's lights. It looked simple, but to her it was perfect. She packed it carefully into a small box, whispering to it as if the Dragon Queen could hear her already. "This is for you. Please feel happy." The harder part was still to come. Reaching the Dragon Queen was no simple task. Her palace floated alone in the upper orbit, guarded by alien sentries and automated drones. No human had ever dared to approach, let alone enter. But Lila had a plan. She had spent hours watching patrols, learning when the drones rested and when the guards were distracted. She had memorized the patterns, mapped every corridor and gate she would need to pass. On the night of her attempt, she put on a small cloak to hide her face and carried the cake close to her chest. Her heart pounded with fear and excitement. "I can do this," she told herself. "I have to." Elias caught her just as she was about to leave. "Lila, wait." His voice was sharp, filled with the worry of a father who knew the dangers better than anyone. "I have to, Father," she said, gripping the cake box. "I can't let her be lonely. Not if I can help it." He sighed and hugged her tightly. "Be careful, my brave girl. Remember, you are small and the world is big, but your heart is bigger than you know." With that, Lila slipped into the shadows of the station corridors, moving quietly past sleeping aliens and humming machinery. Her steps were careful, measured like the machines she loved to fix. Every shadow, every metal wall, every sound of distant engines made her heart race. But she kept going, driven by the simple thought: someone must make her feel loved. As she approached the palace, the walls grew taller and smoother, the corridors wider and echoing. Automated guards hovered nearby, scanning for intruders. Lila paused, hiding behind a large pillar. She watched their patterns, holding her breath as one passed close by. When the path cleared, she darted forward, silent as a shadow, until finally she reached the palace doors. The doors were enormous, carved with ancient designs that seemed to shimmer with light. Lila hesitated, trembling slightly. She placed the cake carefully on a small metal tray she had brought, then whispered softly, "For you? I hope you like it." She pushed the doors open, and the palace inside was more beautiful than she had imagined. Light danced off crystal walls, and soft hums of energy filled the air. In the center, seated on a raised platform, was the Dragon Queen. She was larger than Lila had imagined, with scales that shone like molten gold and eyes that glowed with centuries of wisdom. Lila froze for a moment, overwhelmed by the Queen's presence. The Dragon Queen's eyes narrowed at first. She had not expected a human, especially a small human child, to approach her. Many had tried to steal from her, to spy on her, or to make demands, but never this. Never kindness. I brought you something," Lila said, her voice shaking but clear. She held out the small box. "It's a cake. For your birthday. No one ever celebrates it, so I thought maybe you would like to." The Dragon Queen tilted her head, curious. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. Humans were small and weak, but this one, she had something the Queen had not felt in centuries: pure, unguarded thought for another. For a moment the air was still. Lila's heart raced, her small chest heaving with hope and fear. The Queen looked at her, eyes wide, scales glinting. And then, something changed. A single tear formed in the Queen's eye, sparkling like a star. She had never had anyone remember her, not in all the centuries of her life. And now here was this tiny human, offering something simple but filled with love. Lila stepped forward a little, hands trembling. I just wanted you to feel happy," she said softly. The Dragon Queen's massive head lowered, studying the girl. A warmth spread through the room, subtle but undeniable. Lila's small courage had reached her, and the Queen felt something she had not felt in a lifetime: hope. And in that moment Lila realized something. Even the smallest human could do something no alien could imagine. Even the weakest could change the heart of the strongest. The Dragon Queen sat alone in her grand palace, the silence stretching around her like a heavy cloak. Her scales shimmered faintly in the dim light, golden and silver hues blending together, but even their beauty could not chase away the emptiness she had felt for centuries. She had ruled the dragon species for longer than most beings could remember, yet in all that time, no one had ever celebrated her, not even on the day she was born. Birthdays, she had once thought, were for humans and smaller creatures, for those with fleeting lives and fragile joys. But deep down she had longed for one just once, to feel remembered, to feel important beyond her power. For centuries, fear had kept others away. Even her own kind approached her with respect mixed with caution. They bowed, obeyed, and brought her tributes, but no one ever smiled at her, no one ever spoke of her hopes or dreams, no one ever dared to celebrate her life. The Dragon Queen had grown strong from solitude, her heart armored as carefully as her scales. She learned to rule with precision, but the emptiness never left. Tonight, however, the silence was different. There was a faint sound, soft and uncertain, that brushed against her awareness. It was not the usual clanking of machinery or the distant hum of the orbiting station. It was lighter, smaller, but it carried something unexpected: courage. The Dragon Queen's glowing eyes scanned the grand hall. A small figure stepped forward, delicate but purposeful. A human child. She froze, unsure whether to roar in warning or simply observe. Humans were fragile creatures. They had little strength compared to dragons, yet here one stood, unafraid. The child held something in her hands, a small box. She looked up at the Dragon Queen, her eyes wide but steady, full of hope. The Dragon Queen tilted her massive head. Humans were rare here, and even rarer were those bold enough to approach her. She had seen threats, spies and thieves, but never this. Never someone who came with kindness. I brought this for you, the child said, her voice trembling slightly. It's a cake. For your birthday. No one ever celebrates it, so I thought maybe you would like it. The Dragon Queen's golden eyes widened. She had not heard such words in centuries. No one celebrates me? The thought stung, but it also awakened something she had long hidden. A memory of being young, of feeling small and unimportant, even among dragons. Her chest tightened as the memories rose. The loneliness of her first years, the isolation imposed by others, the endless expectations that had left her cold. The child stepped forward carefully, her tiny hands offering the box. I wanted you to feel happy, she added softly. The Dragon Queen lowered her massive head to inspect the gift. The cake was small, imperfect in shape, but glowing faintly with light crystals. The effort and care behind it were obvious, more than any treasure she had ever received. She felt a warmth she had not known she could feel, a mix of surprise, gratitude, and longing. A single tear slid down her cheek. It sparkled like a star, reflecting the lights of the palace. The Dragon Queen had never been touched like this, never recognized in a way that mattered. Power could command respect, wealth could inspire awe, but only this simple act of kindness, could reach her heart. She blinked slowly, unsure how to respond. Her throat tightened. Her mind, so used to control and command, struggled to find the right words. Yet the child's gaze never wavered. It was steady, sincere, and full of something pure, the courage to care without expecting anything in return. Come closer, the Dragon Queen finally said, her voice soft and surprisingly gentle. It echoed through the palace, startling the guards and sending a ripple through the air. The child stepped forward, hands still clutching the small box. You remembered me, the Dragon Queen said, her voice breaking slightly. No one ever remembered me before. I wanted to, the child replied simply. Everyone deserves to feel happy. Even you. The Dragon Queen's massive wings shivered as if a breeze had passed through them. She leaned closer, her enormous head careful not to crush the tiny figure before her. The warmth of her presence, once intimidating, now felt protective. For the first time in centuries she did not feel alone. The child carefully placed the box down and opened it. The sweet smell of the cake, simple but fragrant, filled the hall. The Dragon Queen lowered her head further, studying it, studying the effort, the care, the bravery. She had seen powerful beings fall, galaxies shift, and wars begin, but none of that had ever reached her heart like this small act. You are brave, the Dragon Queen said, tears glistening in her eyes. And kind. Such a thing. I never expected from a human. The child smiled, relief flooding her tiny body. I wanted you to know someone cares, she whispered. The Dragon Queen's heart, long armored against the world, opened just a little. The isolation that had defined her existence began to crack. In that moment she realized something she had never thought possible. Even the smallest, weakest creature could change the life of the strongest. And as she looked at the child, standing boldly despite fear, the Dragon Queen knew that tonight, for the first time in her long life, she felt truly seen, truly remembered, truly celebrated. The Dragon Queen lowered her massive head until it was just above the small human child. Lila's heart pounded in her chest, but she stood tall, holding the cake carefully. The soft light from the palace crystals reflected off her brown hair, and for a moment, everything was quiet except for the faint hum of the station beyond. The Dragon Queen's eyes, golden and full of ancient wisdom, studied the tiny cake. She saw more than sugar and crystals. She saw courage. She saw love. She saw hope. And in that moment, her centuries of loneliness seemed to press down like a heavy weight, ready to break her heart. Why would you do this for me? The Dragon Queen asked, her voice trembling slightly. She had ruled countless worlds, commanded armies, and survived wars, yet this act of kindness stunned her more than any victory. Because everyone deserves to feel happy, Lila replied softly. Even you. The Dragon Queen blinked, tears glimmering in her eyes. No one had ever said such words to her. No one had ever looked at her as more than a ruler, more than a being of fear and power. She had expected flattery, bribes, or demands, but never care. Never concern. Never kindness. Slowly she extended one of her massive claws, careful not to harm the child. The claw hovered above the cake and Lila gasped slightly. The Dragon Queen lowered it gently, touching the edges of the box with a delicacy that belied her size. "It is perfect," she whispered, the words strange coming from her lips. "No one has ever done this before." Lila's small hands trembled, but she smiled. "I wanted you to know someone remembers you. Even for just one day you can be happy." The Dragon Queen's chest rose and fell as tears streamed down her scales. She had never allowed anyone near her before, yet here was this tiny human, fearless, offering joy without expecting anything in return. She leaned closer, her enormous head casting a shadow over the child, yet there was no threat, only warmth. For the first time in centuries, the Dragon Queen allowed herself to smile. It was small, fragile, but real. I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I have lived for so long and no one has ever celebrated me. No one has ever cared." "You don't need to say anything," Lila replied. "I just wanted to share this with you." The Dragon Queen's eyes softened and she looked at the cake again. She could smell the sweetness, simple but genuine, and in that scent she felt more than nourishment. She felt a connection, a spark of humanity, small yet brilliant. "Then, we shall celebrate," she said, her massive voice filled with wonder. "Tonight, I will allow a celebration." Lila's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" the Dragon Queen confirmed. "Tonight, for the first time, I will feel remembered. And you have made it happen." The palace, usually cold and silent, seemed to change. Crystals shimmered more brightly, lights reflected off walls like fireworks. The Dragon Queen moved closer, not in intimidation, but in a gesture that felt almost protective. Lila carefully placed the cake on a flat crystal surface. The Dragon Queen lowered her head further and gently touched the cake, her massive claw hovering over it. She studied it, then nodded. "A gift from a human. How strange, and how beautiful." Lila smiled nervously. Do you want to try it?" The Dragon Queen considered this. She had eaten before, of course, but never with thought or pleasure. Food was fuel, nothing more. But now it carried meaning, a symbol of care and courage. She leaned in and took a tiny bite, not because she needed to eat but because she wanted to feel the love baked into it. Her eyes widened in surprise. It was sweet, warm, and real. And more than that, it carried the intention behind it, the care, the bravery of a small human who dared to defy fear and hierarchy. A tear slid down her cheek, glimmering in the crystal light. This is the first time I have felt joy like this," she whispered. Lila beamed. "I'm glad," she said. "That's all I wanted." The Dragon Queen's laughter, soft but full of wonder, echoed through the hall. It had been centuries since anyone had heard her laugh. Her wings fluttered slightly, not in threat but in delight. She had been alone for so long and now, because of a human child, she felt warmth, connection, and celebration. "You have done something no one else could," the Dragon Queen said, looking at Lila with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "A human has touched my heart." The small child's chest swelled with pride and happiness. She had faced fear, risked danger, and dared to care, and it had changed to being stronger than anyone could imagine. The Dragon Queen's presence, once terrifying, now felt like protection. For the first time in centuries she felt truly seen. And as the two of them sat together, sharing a small, imperfect cake in the vast, glittering palace, the Dragon Queen realized something incredible. Humans were small and fragile, yes, but they carried within them courage, hope, and love that even the greatest power could not command. For one magical night, the Dragon Queen's loneliness vanished. For one small, brave human child, the galaxy's rules of fear and strength had been rewritten. A heart, pure and fearless, had changed everything. And Lila knew, even as she smiled, that this was only the beginning. The Dragon Queen's palace had never felt so alive. The soft glow of the crystals reflected off her scales and bathed the halls in colors that shifted like water. Normally, she ruled in silence and solitude, surrounded only by her guards and servants who obeyed without question. Tonight, however, something had changed. There was warmth here, a ripple of life she had not known for centuries. Lila sat quietly, her small hands folded in her lap, watching the Dragon Queen as she carefully finished the cake. The massive creature had taken several bites, savoring each one, and yet it wasn't just the sweetness of the dessert that filled the hall. It was the sweetness of connection. The Dragon Queen had laughed, smiled, and even teared up at the simplest gesture. Lila could hardly believe what she had achieved. "You have done something remarkable, little human," the Dragon Queen said, her deep voice soft but full of awe. "No one, no being, has ever touched my life like this. No one has ever remembered me or celebrated me, or cared for me without expectation." Lila felt a surge of pride, but she only shrugged modestly. "I just wanted you to feel happy," she said. "I didn't think it would change anything." The Dragon Queen's eyes glimmered. "Change? It has changed everything. You, a human, have shown me something I thought impossible, that kindness and courage can reach even the most isolated hearts." She paused, and then she lowered her massive head to look directly into Lila's eyes. "You have given me a gift greater than any treasure or power in the galaxy." Elias, who had watched from a distance, entered quietly. He had stayed behind in the shadows, worried but trusting Lila's instincts. When he saw the Dragon Queen smiling, tears glistening on her scales, he felt a mix of awe and relief. Humans were small, fragile, often dismissed by aliens who measured worth in strength or technology. Yet here they were, shaping the fate of a being who could crush planets, using only courage, love, and a simple cake. You did this?" Elias whispered to Lila, kneeling beside her. Lila nodded, her eyes shining. "I wanted her to feel happy. That's all." The Dragon Queen watched them both, her massive head lowered carefully so as not to frighten them. "You are extraordinary," she said. "I have seen empires rise and fall, battles won and lost, and yet none of that compares to the courage and care of this small human." She gestured to Lila. "Humans, they are remarkable creatures. Small in size but vast in spirit." The word struck Elias with power. Humans, overlooked and underestimated, were often dismissed in the wider galaxy. And yet here their strength, the strength of heart, of courage, of empathy, had changed the course of a lifetime. Word of the celebration spread quietly through the station. Aliens who had once ignored humans began to watch differently. Whispers of the tiny child who had touched the Dragon Queen reached ears that had never cared for human deeds before. Slowly, respect began to grow not just for Lila, but for all humans who lived with courage and kindness. For the Dragon Queen, the night became a turning point. She had spent centuries in isolation, feared and uncelebrated it, but now she understood that her loneliness could be broken, not by strength or fear but by trust and care. A small human had done what no dragon, no alien, no soldier could. She had shown that even the weakest, the smallest, could leave a mark on the strongest. Lila smiled as the Dragon Queen gently placed a claw on her shoulder, careful not to harm her. "Thank you," the Queen whispered. "I will never forget this night. And I will not forget you, human. You have reminded me that connection is more powerful than fear, and kindness more lasting than power." Elias hugged his daughter tightly. "You've done something amazing, Lila," he said. "You've shown them all what humans are capable of." Lila grinned, feeling a warmth that went beyond pride. It was the happiness of knowing she had made a difference. She had taken a risk, faced fear, and offered something pure to a being who had known only isolation. And in doing so, she had changed not only the Dragon Queen's life but the way the galaxy might view humans forever. As the night drew on, the Dragon Queen looked around her palace, feeling a sense of hope she had never known. She thought of the humans who lived on the station, small and often dismissed, yet capable of acts so great they could touch the hearts of the strongest beings. She thought of the young girl who had dared to reach out, and she realized that perhaps the galaxy was not as cold and lonely as she had believed. For Lila, it was the beginning of a journey. She had shown that humans could be more than survivors, more than laborers or mechanics. They could be change-makers, brave and kind, capable of altering the hearts of even the most powerful beings. The Dragon Queen, once feared across the stars, had learned to smile, to laugh, and to remember. And humans, small and underestimated, had claimed a place in her heart. That night the galaxy shifted a little. Not through war, not through conquest, but through courage, empathy, and a small, imperfect cake baked by a human child. And as Lila looked up at the stars beyond the palace windows, she felt something extraordinary. The knowledge that humans could matter, even in the vastest, most powerful places of the galaxy. And for the Dragon Queen, the memory of a single human child's courage would stay with her forever, a reminder that even the smallest hearts can leave the largest impact.